Okay, everybody, we're coming on in. Please come on in. We are asking everybody to turn off their camera unless you're a presenter, just so we have the maximum number of people able to see and do. I am going to do a couple announcements in a sec, but since you all are coming in, if you wouldn't mind muting, not muting, but turning off your camera, but also to be conscious of, we are going to be doing a lot of stuff in the chat. So feel free to, as we go, start to use that, start to share out what you're thinking about, things like that. I will also be putting the presentation materials in the chat so you all have that and we're all good to go with that. And I'll put the link to where you can find that. Our presenters are just coming on in. We'll get started in just a few minutes. So people coming in, please take yourself off of your video just so we can keep things organized. While we're here, because we're gonna have a lot of people here, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, kind of where you're from, where your state is, and then any kind of questions or topics you wanna make sure we get into today. We certainly have a lot planned and we're gonna get in some great stuff for you. But if you wouldn't mind chiming in, saying hello, telling us where you are, that would be great too. So everybody can do that just in the chat feature. I should say also, I assume when I start talking that everybody's been on like their 5th or 6th Zoom meeting, but if you haven't been on Zoom late yet or not sure where that is, it is down at the bottom of the screen you see now. You can see a place that says chat. You click on that, you're in it. You can start introducing yourself, saying hi, telling us about yourself. We are going to, like I said, start officially in a couple minutes, but just to get that started, if people have stuff that they want to share and talk about, please put it in the chat. Okay. The material that we're going to be speaking from is going to be in a shared drive that I'm just pulling up right now. I will put the link into it. One of the things that you can do with that link is also get a sign up for a professional learning community that we might hope to do out of this. You're going to tell us, ultimately we'll go with what the group says about this and if there's interest. I'll say more about it when everybody's here and after we hear from our panelists. But for now, I can just tell you that one of the things we're very interested in doing, because obviously this crisis continues and it's going to, in some ways, even take us into the summer and possibly, I hope not, but possibly the fall, is we're going to need to keep coming together and finding ways to support each other, teach each other, come together. And so with the collaboration between our panelists and some of the other people that have done the webinars that maybe some of you have been to as well, there is interest in having some professional learning communities grow out of this. So if that's you, if that's interesting to you, you can go get things in the shared folder, but you can also look at something that will say, I think it says something like PLC sign up. SSW Network PLC sign up is exactly what it says. You can go get that. You can decide, hey, I want to keep going with this. I want to reach out. This group is going to meet with me and the other panelists next week, and we're going to come back with some plans about that. So just, I'll say more about that when we get started proper in just a few minutes. But yeah, keep these intros coming. We've got people from all over the country so far. Very cool. Welcome, welcome everyone. All right, presenters, are we ready? Are you good? Good. All right. All right. Oh, I'm so excited. So, hi everybody. This is our middle school social work in a pandemic webinar, and you are very, very welcome to what is now the 5th of 5 panels that we put together. I want to say, even before they start talking, a big thank you to this mighty group that's about to introduce themselves to you and share what they do. This is a group of people that is a combination of students of mine at the Loyola School Mental Health Advanced Practice Program, and I'll say more about that later in the hour, as well as just really great school social workers and people that we met that are also great school social workers from the network who came forward and were interested in contributing today. The point of these webinars really grew out of a conversation happening on School Social Work Network with early childhood, pre-K school social workers, actually, where they were asking about, we want to come together, we want to find some support, what can we do? And that kind of snowballed, because that group said, hey, let's do a webinar, let's come together, talk this way. And that then turned into, well, maybe there are other groups in other grade levels that want to do that. So we've had 4 of these. This is our 5th and final one. We're certainly open to doing more and additional things through the rest of the semester into the school year, summer, I should say. But this has really been a labor of love and exciting for me to do, and I'm excited to hear from these four folks today. So a couple housekeeping notes. If you are not a presenter today, if you could please take off your video and just be mindful that we want to make a very active chat experience. There's going to be enough of us both watching on YouTube and here that we're not going to be able to unmute and have people on camera. But we are going to want to get to any and every question people have. We also know that this will hopefully just be the beginning of additional connections and conversations that happen with this group. Just a little bit more about me, and then I'll give over to Laura Montiel, who will introduce herself and the panel. I'm a professor at the School of Social Work at Loyola. This is the Loyola insignia. I got to represent Loyola every time I do one of these. I have been a school social worker myself from '92 to 2006 in the Chicago suburbs. Along the way, I got to be a PhD student, and then I was lucky enough to get a job actually in the city and area that I love, in the town that I grew up in. I'm in a really nice situation at a Jesuit school that I think really values a lot of the things that I wanted to do. And so here I am now with a school mental health advanced practice program, which is trying to really provide kind of leadership training, evidence-informed training, the ability for people to kind of go deeper on the stuff they wish they'd gotten to more in grad school, or just the stuff they didn't get to in grad school. And Laura and Carlos may talk more about that and what that was for them. They're about to graduate from our program, which is awesome. But that is another thing, if you're interested in pursuing, we have applications open now. I'll put links in it as people are going. This is not one of those timeshare lectures where you're about to be trapped and you have to apply to this program or anything like that. But I do want you to know that that's an option for you if you're interested. We also have something that's more immediate after this today. If you want to join us, we typically do a summer institute for CEUs. We're about to have our 15th annual one. With the COVID crisis, this is going to be a virtual one, like lots of things right now. So that what that means is it'll be sad because we won't be able to all be together in Chicago in the summer, which I like to do. But we'll at least any and all of you that hear this today, if you want to spend more time with us, you can join us July 16th and 17th. I'll put a link to that too in the chat as we go. And then the last thing I'll say is this is very much going to be hearing from 4 middle school social workers about what they are doing to cope and respond to this crisis and reach out to their students and their families and their staff, as well as take care of themselves. At the end of this, we are going to definitely have some time for question and answers, and myself and Laura are going to do our best to answer some questions, maybe even during the chat, during the presentations themselves. Okay, so I'm almost done talking. I want to thank and introduce Laura Montiel, who has graciously volunteered to be the moderator for today. Laura is a second-year school mental health advanced practice program student. She is a school social worker who has done lots of very interesting work at a number of different grade levels, right now in a middle school. And she has been focused through her work at the certificate on issues around improving 3-tier work, right, Laura? And thinking about that and being intentional about doing more prevention work. So Laura, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Montiel, and I'm excited to be your moderator today. A little background about myself. Back in January of this year, I started working as a Tier 1/2 social worker in a middle school, grades 6 through 8. Before moving to the 6th through 8th grade building, I worked for the same district in a 2nd through 5th grade elementary school. I've been practicing school social work for the past 4 years in the state of Illinois, and I work with a very diverse population. We have a large number of students who are low income and ELL. This is my last semester with the SMAC program at Loyola, the School Mental Health Advanced Practice Certificate. So I'm going to introduce everyone else that's going to be. So I'm going to pull up my presentation. So bear with me for 1 minute. Okay, so here we are. There, okay, so that's me right there at the top. And then Autumn Cloud Ingram is a licensed master social work. She is also a licensed certified school social worker from Connecticut. Her experience is through therapeutics, residential and public school settings, and she works in both middle and preschool settings. We're also going to have Nancy Watson. She is an LCSW and drug addictions counselor, school social worker and administrator in Lake Forest, Illinois. She's also a psychotherapist in Lake Forest, and she's actively engaged in the community involving youth well-being. And then there's Carlos Evans. He is a school social worker in Central Illinois. This is his 8th year in the field of school social work. He works in a K-8 grade building with a large majority of students being at risk. And this is also his last semester here at Loyola. So I've had the pleasure to work with him for the past 2 years. So now I'm going to move on to kind of show you things that we have been doing with my school district. So one of the things that I really enjoy about my team is that we are like a group of 10 social workers at my district. We have 4 elementary schools, and then we have the middle school. And that gives me a variety of experience, and we share a lot of resources. So one thing that we wanted to do together is create a page where parents don't have too many resources, because that can become overwhelming. So we created the social work resources with the help of one of our administrators. And kind of we separated our schools for like our very little ones, pre-K through first, and then our 2nd through 5ths, and then our 6th through 8ths. And if I'm going to show you how this looks. So this is what it looks like. It's on a Google Doc. We do a lot of work with Google. And I belong to the school, it's Conrady. So what we did here is we put in resources for the parents. So I'm going to show you the last resource I put in, which if you click in there, you can go to that one, and then this is what it looks like. So I work on this every week to help also alleviate the stress of my other school social workers, because like I said, I'm tier 1, so I don't necessarily have a caseload like they do. I don't have minutes to meet, but I'm there to support our whole school and all of our population, which I was really excited about when I got this opportunity. So one good thing I got is that when I found some of the resources for self-care this week, I found the importance of self-care in English, and I found it in Spanish, even though my and over here looks a little weird. And then I did the same thing, practicing self-care during a quarantine for our students. And I kind of broke it down for them there. Also took it from a website, and the link is all the way at the bottom. So this is something that I think helps. But because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm online and I'm looking for resources, I have so many tabs open. Sometimes it's overwhelming. So then let me go back to my presentation. So we've been doing that very well. Everyone's in charge of something. So then I have to give credit to one of my co-workers, Ms. Gaspari. She was the one to create this fabulous Google check-in form, and all we had to do is copy it and kind of make it our own. So I kind of did. So this was really good because I had the same thought, but she, she's really good. So she got to it first, and she created this how are you feeling today form. And this kind of helps me to check in with my students to see how they're doing on a weekly basis. We work with zones. So we have the zones in here. And then at the end of this, what I changed here is I asked the students, why are you in this zone today? Because 6th through 8th grade students, they can tell you a little bit more about how they're feeling. Or when they do write in there, then I'll connect with them and be like, do you want to meet with me? And then we'll meet, or we'll talk on the phone and kind of discuss why they're feeling that way. And I think that's helped them a lot with their stress. And the last thing that I did for this is I'm going to share that I did purchase a My Anxiety workbook. Like I said before, we share resources. And the reason that I purchased this was because I knew that my students were stressed out. If adults are stressed out, students are definitely going to be stressed out. And as everyone knows, kids don't usually go to their parents and talk about the stresses. So I wanted to open something up to just open the conversation without prying too much or making them uneasy or uncomfortable. So let me show you what that looks like. I really like it because it shows, it has like more than 30 pages of things that you can do with the students, like explain to them like what is stress, because they might not even know that that's what they're feeling. Like, how are you feeling? Besides the zones, let's kind of take your feelings to another level. Tell me how you really are feeling. It has a survey. It has so many good pages that you can look through. How do you feel? Because sometimes it's a feeling, but knowing how it feels to be stressed out can help them kind of relax. So I put these up for them more on a student to student basis on what I think they need. And I think this has helped them a lot. So these are the 3 resources that I wanted to share with you guys. So now I'm going to introduce you back to Miss Autumn Green. She is going to talk about all her fabulous work she's doing.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Perfect. So thank you, Laura, for introducing me. As Laura had said, my name is Autumn Cloud Ingram. I am a school social worker in the Western Connecticut area, and I'm actually split both between a middle school and a preschool. In the middle school, a large part of my role is providing direct services, so individual and group services, group counseling, sorry, to middle school students. So a large part of what I've been doing in collaboration with the other social workers at my school is coming up with ways to engage with them and provide these services through distance learning. So one of the first things that was on our agenda together as the school social workers was how are we going to initiate and keep the students engaged, in particular, the students that were already harder to engage. So one of the things that we started and we've continued to do was utilize our school resource officer. So our school resource officer was there every day, pretty much the whole school day. And so how we were able to use him is he is someone that is actually able to go to the home. So we would have him go to the home with a nice welcome packet, with some balloons, and just try to, say hello and drop off this packet in their mailbox. And we found that it actually worked pretty well. A lot of the students, of course, are feeling stressed and are missing school. And I think it was really helpful for them to have a familiar face. And what we would do is during our staff meetings every week is just use a Google Sheet to kind of keep track of new students who we haven't heard from and we think could benefit from a visit from our SRO. We would add students, add addresses, and add any other notes. So we were, it was served to be a working document so we could continually kind of keep track of, who could use a visit from him and what the result of the visits that he did go on were. In addition to that, something that I did shortly before the spring break was send out what I kind of just called fun packets. So I mailed home a personal note to all of the students that I have on my caseload and included some coloring pages and some stickers. And that was a way, again, just to engage with all the students, but in particular, some of the ones that have been harder to reach. And the feedback from that has been really good from the students, but actually the parents. We've heard a lot of positive feedback from the parents just saying how much they appreciated it and how much they're missing having that contact and seeing, interacting with the staff each day. Another student engagement tool that we're using is doing a question of the day, which is basically just a survey done, a question that would be put out each day. something silly, doesn't always have to pertain to academics. And then the teachers are all in clusters. So what they would do is then fill out a survey to find out what candy each student would like. And then the ones that got the correct answer, they were kind of just sending some little treats to their house. So that's been good. And then one of the last tools we're using is the mood meter. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with Ruler, which is a social emotional program that came out of Yale in the Yale Child Study Center. And basically what one of the tenets that it uses is this thing called the mood meter, which is similar to the zones of regulation and has students identify how they're feeling based on color. So yellow feelings are more like happy, hyper excited, red, more like angry, blue, and then green. And so what some of the social workers and the school counselors actually have headed every day is taking a photo of themselves dressed based on how they're feeling. And that's been good because they've been silly and funny photos, but it's also let the students know that we're all kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed and we're all learning as we go through this distance learning process. So now I'll talk a little bit about things that we're doing for parent engagement. So what has been incredibly helpful for me, and this has actually been, I think, just a positive of doing the online or distance learning, is using this Remind app, which is an app our school was using before. However, there wasn't a lot of the staff and a lot of the parents weren't connected on it, and now they are. So it's just an app where you can send and receive texts. And also I've been using Google Voice. So Google Voice is great too, because you can send and receive text to caregivers, but both of these services remove your personal number from being used. It like gives you another number. And with both you can call and you can text. And I have had parents that I historically have had very difficulty getting in touch with. Now being able to use those has been, it's been much easier. Something that some of the school psychologists and the social workers and counselors have been doing is a newsletter, which has been very brief, but there's been a lot of changes. I know in my district from day to day, week to week, as we're learning. And they're good because part of that means that we're learning as we go, but that also means that it's sometimes been hard for the parents to kind of catch up. So the newsletter has been great, just to serve as a way to inform the parents and caregivers about changes, any challenges, school updates and things like that. And then what they've been incorporating in that is home activities and some positive behavioral strategies to use at home. Okay, so last I'm going to talk about tools for session, because as I mentioned, a lot of what I do is that direct service work. And it was hard to think about how I can appropriately engage the students in their IEP goals, keeping in mind confidentiality, and that a lot of them are at home and don't have a separate room or space to go to, or don't necessarily have headphones. So one of the things that's been very helpful, and I have a picture of there, is just using like these positive affirmation cards that I have and quotes that I have. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of just start the video session with some mindful breaths. I'll read the quote out loud, give them, a few minutes to reflect on it, and then just ask them, what does it make them think of? Can you relate to it? Can you not relate to it at all? And typically pretty quickly after I read it, there's a response that they have, and it served as a good jumping off point to relate back to some of the goals that we were working on. And next has been this website, Therapist Aid, which has been absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to click on this link just so you can see, but this whole website is completely free. You don't have to pay for any of this. You can see on the left-hand side, you can filter by demographic or you can filter by topic. So this is middle school, so you could click on adolescents and then say you wanted to look at some videos to do with your group or to do in an individual session. You can click right on that video and it gives you a whole list of videos you can use to work on anger, to work on varying cognitive distortions, anxieties, different CBT videos. So this tool has been, I have it bookmarked and I use it every week. You can go back out and you can use what are interactive tools that they can use. You can look at different worksheets that are, again, for that age. So now I will go back. Perfect. And these last two I'm going to talk about, just to show that we're completely, learning things and sharing ideas every day. I actually just added because I found out about them within the last 24 hours. So this one, playing cards, is what it sounds like. So you basically can go in and play, pick like checkers, backgammon, crazy eight. There's a bunch of different games you can play to use in session, which is really cool. And then the last one is, this is a game, they call it Game Spinner. But so there's different, if you click on this right here, this is basically just a spinner. So you can spin it, it will land on a color. And then you can go back to these slides and then have the student answer, or if you're doing a group, answer in group based on the color that the spinner landed on. So that's pretty cool. So I'm very excited about that one. I just learned about that today. All right, so that is all I have. I hope that this information was helpful to you. And next I would like to introduce Nancy Watson.
And before Nancy, you start, just so everybody knows, we have, for some reason, we had some technical difficulties with the Google Shared Drive where the stuff these guys put together went out. I hope, I don't know what happened there. So Laura and Carlos have already added theirs. I know Autumn and Nancy will add theirs as well. So just be aware, we're going to take care of getting those things added in. Obviously, they've got more to do right now in terms of talking. So just so you know. And Autumn, if you have that game spinner, if that can be linked, they're looking for that as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Great. Thanks, Michael and Autumn. My name is Nancy Watson, and I'm the school social worker at Lake Forest Country Day in Lake Forest, Illinois. We are a pre-K through 8 private school, which really affords me a lot of opportunity to engage with all stakeholders in a variety of ways. I'm quite fortunate with respect to that. And I'm going to share my presentation with you right now. Okay. Can you see the screen, Michael? Is that my slides up?
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay. So, we are facing, as we all know, quite a difficult time. And I thought I would share with you how we're coming alongside all of our stakeholders to help them navigate this disruption, right, to their routines and to their lives. I don't think there's ever been a better time to practice growth mindset. And we really need to give ourselves and our stakeholders permission to course correct during this time because it's difficult. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about stress because I think it's important to understand the why, why there's so much stress right now. And I really love the work of Sonia Lupien. She's out of the Center for Studies on Human Stress, and her acronym is NUTS. And these are the triggers that she indicates are really the triggers for our stressors. And if we think about our parents, our faculty, and our students, look at how these all fit into COVID-19. We have the novelty piece. Think of all the new routines that everybody's facing, the uncertainty that exists. Threat really represents the threat of self. So threat that I won't do this well, that I will fail, that this won't work for me. And then a sense of control, not having any kind of control over this situation. So, one of the solutions to this is really being able to tap into your emotions. If you read all the research out there, sort of the abiding theme is that we need to be naming and understanding our feelings. And similar to Autumn School, we are a ruler school. And RULER is an acronym for recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating your emotions. And as social workers, we know that, that is what helps us get through and manage obstacles. And so when I think about the adults in our building, I love this quote because it says, when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it is our job to share our calm and not join their chaos. And that's really hard right now. It's hard for all of us. And I have a funny little video to share because I think parents are becoming quite creative in the way that they are managing this. So take a look at this.
Oh, no, yes.
I just love that. And even though our parents they're using their humor, we still have to come along and support them. So what I'm offering at our school, I'm trying to create weekly connections for parents. And if we go back to Yalom's principle of group work, the ability to see commonalities, to have experiences normalized, to share strategies is so powerful. And so every Wednesday morning, I'm offering a weekly connection with faculty. And then I'm also offering newsletters. I'll share with you we have a remote learning hub at our school. Katie McCarthy is our other counselor, and every week we update this. This week was all about building a family charter, which is similar to family agreements. I'll talk to you more about that. I don't know if you're all familiar with the glitter jar project and metaphor. It's you create a glitter jar and you shake it, and it allows kids to understand that their brains, when they're stressed, are all the glitter flowing around, and before they can make any kind of choices, they need to let their glitter settle. So we did a video that parents can tap into at any time. So we look to provide resources. We have some wellness challenges, and we also just kind of slowly feed our families articles that we think are important because as we all know, there's so much information out there, which is a gift, and yet it's a lot for everybody to be sifting through. So if we can be doing that piece for all the stakeholders, I think it's really helpful. I'm also offering evening discussions and workshops similar to the morning. Last week, we created the family charter, which is a RULER activity. There will be a link to this sheet. And really, I think it's so important right now that our families create agreements about how they want to feel at home, what sorts of behaviors have to happen in order for those feelings to be met, and how will they hold each other accountable if it doesn't happen. And this is just a wonderful way to help your families create some agreements and some routines. It's quite simple and yet extremely powerful. And then how do we engage our faculty? Interesting and not surprisingly enough, Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, came together in March, and they surveyed about 5,000 faculty members. And what they found out is our faculty right now are feeling anxious, they're feeling fearful, and they're feeling frustrated and worried and overwhelmed and sad. So how do we help them? I think the best way we can help our faculty is first and foremost provide opportunities for validation, collaboration, education, and connection. So very much, similar to what we're doing with parents, I'm offering open hours for connection so I can connect with faculty. I'm also attending team grade level meetings. It provides me the opportunity to flag students of concerns, collaborate with the team, maybe take some phone calls off of their plate. And it also offers me time to establish a system for communicating about systems of concerns and families of concern. And then of course, trying to offer what I call light lift social and emotional lessons for advisory or wellness blocks. As we all know, remote learning has cut into our time for these things. And so it's very important to try to find lessons that will fit in. Ruler is doing a very nice job. They have e-learning tools for distance education. There is a link here for you in the Google Drive, but this is great for teachers because it provides the e-learning tools in just a very succinct way. And then kidgrit.com, I'm going to bring you there. This is a free curriculum that I'm so impressed with that I think, you would be able to slowly feed to your faculty, maybe one lesson a week. It's free, it's aligned with CASEL, and it's related and corresponds to the pandemic. And so it's bringing up all the social and emotional learning competencies that we want to get at related to the pandemic. And so if you go to this website, you can download the curriculum to your computer and all the lessons are there. It's actually a great resource. I was very impressed with. And then CASEL has also put together for teachers resources and guidance. And this is something that you could sift through, and it categorizes, parents, caregivers, guidelines, and links to all sorts of great resources as well. And I also have included in the Google slide a lot of lessons around diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that is also so vital during this time. I'm also helping our teachers foster connection with students by helping them organize spirit weeks. I had mentioned the Wednesday Wellness Instagram challenge, and then sending students postcards of praise. So how do we support our students? I think probably if I were to identify the two most important things outside of understanding their emotions would be self-care and a sense of agency. And, like you all, I am offering office hours, and I'm really stressing self-care and coping skills. And I know, I believe Laura or Autumn had mentioned Erica's Lighthouse. Erica's Lighthouse is a wonderful organization that offers evidence-informed depression awareness. I want to emphasize that right now they're not recommending that you run the full program due to the remote situation that we're in, but they have adapted their lesson 3, which is good mental health for everyone, to be able to, run remotely, and something that is really just encouraging our students to think about how can they be taking care of themselves. And so what would happen is, if you click on this, you go to the resource portal. What I want to emphasize is that Erica's Lighthouse is completely free, and their materials are completely turnkey. They're there, they're ready for you to use as soon as you create an account, and they're flexible. Again, Erica's Lighthouse is really emphasizing they just want to use lesson 3 of their program during our time of remote learning, which is around taking care of good mental health. So they walk you through this. When you click on here, there's a script, there's a slideshow, they have audio, they have videos. It's an outstanding program. Highly recommend. Also, if you're not familiar with Text-a-Tip, it allows students to connect anonymously to a mental health provider. And what it does is you receive a code that is unique to your community. So if you don't have one, you simply type in hello to a number that I've provided in the resources. And within minutes, a live mental health counselor will respond to the text. This is a great resource as well. And then, of course, you know, opportunities for helping our kids find connection and purpose in you know, following in the footsteps of Mr. Rogers, I think, whose mom said to him, you know, find the helpers during times of trouble. Let's help our students be the helpers. And this Doing Good Together site is wonderful because it provides just some great ideas of what you could do as a school community to create some unity and community service. So I really enjoy that as well. And that is it for me. I am going to hand it over to Carlos so he can share all the great work that he's doing with his school.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And just shout out to everybody that's here meeting, trying to, you know, get attached to some different resources for their families and students. I think that is amazing. And big shout out to Dr. Kelly for putting this together. So I'm going to share my screen. Go. Oh. All right. All right, so Carlos Evans here, and I just wanted to share some tools that have helped me during this time of shelter in place and remote learning to support the families and students that I work with in Central Illinois. I'm at a CADE building, and I really focus a lot on 5 through 8. I do work with a team, so that's been a huge benefit. There's a school counselor on the team, a couple of contractual folks, contractual therapists from the community, and then a social emotional learning aide. So you'll see more about that later as we get through the presentation. The 4 things really I want to focus on in this time is the needs assessment, daily SEL themes, collaboration, and building community. So what I really wanted to know when this hit, and I knew that we were going to be doing e-learning, is I really wanted to know what our families and students' needs were and how they were adjusting to COVID-19 and shelter in place. I also wanted to check my own privilege and start with assessing for basic needs, which is where Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory was important. I also wanted to know if they had internet access at home and a device, which is key if you're going to be doing remote learning for students in the home so they can use for education and engagement. I wanted to also take some time to reestablish educational and service provisional goals with our parents and students. As you guys already know, I mean, a lot of our students who do have IEPs or 504s have those goals that we establish at some point throughout the year with the families. But in a crisis moment, I felt the need to really reestablish what parents really wanted for their children and their students at this time, because it might be different than what the goals were for the IEP. Not saying that I was ignoring those goals, but I really want to know what they needed right now. Lastly, I wanted all of our SEL teams' data from the needs assessment to aggregate in the same location for future planning purposes, because our SEL team, we meet on Monday to set goals, and we meet on Friday to go over how we deal with our goals and to discuss any cases that came up that might need some collaboration. So I'm going to come out of the presentation for a second to show you what the needs assessment looks like. Make sure this works well for me. So we are a Microsoft school, so we don't have a lot of options when it comes to Google. You know, when you talk about Google Forms and Google Docs and things like that, because our district has already kind of purchased Microsoft, so we go with Microsoft. But the good thing is, you know, what you can do with Microsoft to a certain degree, you can do with Google and maybe some of the other options that you guys might be using out there. So what we did was we developed a needs assessment. This is the needs assessment here. I use Microsoft Forms to develop it. And like I said, it was informed by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the first question that I was asking, and this is something that's shared among the whole SEL team. So what I was asking was, first of all, what student are we dealing with here? A student and a grade level. In some families, we do have multiple students in the home. I want to know about running water and access to that, access to secure shelter. You know, a lot of our families have been displaced or are having economic challenges due to shelter in place. I also want to know if they had access to heat for their homes. Are they following the social distancing precautions? Are they aware of the precautions that were put out when it comes to frequent hand washing and things of that nature? I also want to know, have they heard from their teachers? That was very important to make sure that teachers were connecting with students, which is what our principals expected us to do. Some teachers struggle more than others, but this was a good question because I found that the answers were mostly yes, but there was some no's. And so it was good to be able to get with those teachers to make sure everything was okay with their connection. And if I was able to reach them or anybody else on the SEL team, to share how we did that so they can keep that connection going. Also, I wanted to know if they had internet access, because we did partner with Comcast, Xfinity, which is what we have in Illinois, among other options, to make sure that the families knew about some of the free, low cost or no cost resources to get those internet essential packages. So we definitely wanted to have that communication if that was necessary, but also to check to see if the address that the students had on file in our Skyward process was the same one they were actually currently living in. Because if we're delivering laptops and devices, we want to make sure we're delivering them to the right place. And then these last two more qualitative questions were about, are there any unique needs that your family is dealing with right now that we potentially can help you address? And so that was a good question, got a lot of good feedback there. And the last question was, what educational goals does the family have for their children during the month of April? I'm in Illinois, so we just today got the stay-at-home order extended through April. And so this question might change a little bit naturally now, but at that point, it was just until the end of April. So I want to know, what was the family's goals at that time? And so the great thing about this needs assessment and using it through Microsoft, as well as if you did it with Google, is that all the data aggregates to one place. So you can see the first question and you can see how they responded. And a lot of yeses. So I was very encouraged that a lot of our families were doing okay when it came to the bare necessities. And this is where we start seeing some discrepancy when you look at, have they heard from their teachers? Do they have internet access? Is the address the same? Because some folks did get displaced or moved. And then those more qualitative questions that we can dig into. So this was very useful for me. I didn't share this exact survey in the resources, but I can make a copy of it and share it after the presentation for anybody that's looking for that. And I'm going to go back to the presentation for you guys. There we go. And so that was the needs assessment and the data that we work with. The next piece are the daily social emotional learning themes. This was a godsend, and this actually was spearheaded by our school counselor who's on the SEL team, because we were all kind of frantically worrying about how we're going to meet the needs of all of our students, because we do have 750 students in the kindergarten through 8th grade building. So one of the ways that our school counselor proposed that we do this was follow these daily themes and create video recorded lessons on these topics. So we have Make It Monday, which is focused on art and creativity. Talk It Out Tuesday, which is a mini lesson where we're just engaging and hopefully they will respond to us. And then Write It Wednesday, which is a writing prompt to encourage that literacy and English language arts piece. Excuse me. And then the other part was Thoughtful Thursday, which is doing something nice for somebody else outside of yourself. And then Fun Friday, which is all about dance and movement, which we had a lot of fun with. And so I'm going to take us back out of the presentation for a second to show you where, if you are interested in seeing what this actually looks like, you can go to our actual Facebook page and you can see students. I'll talk about what this is about too, because we did a parade too, then I'll talk about that last. But this is our Glen Oak Community Learning Center e-learning page, where myself and some of my teammates have uploaded short videos on how to be active, how to do art, how to respond to our prompts, and just how to find fun and activity to stimulate the mind and stimulate some SEL learning during this time. So I really encourage you to check us out on Facebook, a lot of videos. And it's real fun because my family's in the video, my dog, my son. So there is some self, disclosure, not necessarily personal stuff, but definitely things you see because I'm recording in my home. If you're not comfortable with that, then I understand this might not be for you. But if you are, the kids, the families, even the staff are really, really responding to, and they love it. So just wanted to share that too, that it was an easy way to organize our efforts, to provide content to teachers, staff, to students and staff during this time of shelter in place. And students have really, really responded to it. And it just got started not too long ago. And so we're going to keep that going. And it's been a lot of fun too. So I will tell you that. And it's allowed us to get more creative, which sometimes is hard to do in a building that's hopping all the time and there's always fires to put out. It's hard to really find that creative gene. So that's one part that I really want to share with you guys. And then closing it out a little bit, I want to talk about collaboration and community. Collaboration was evident in the previous slide where I was working with my SEL team to create content. One thing I forgot to say is we also upload that content into our OneDrive through Microsoft so that our teachers who are having students virtually in their classes could also see the content, because every student and every family member is not on Facebook naturally. So we do provide that opportunity to extend the work that we're doing to students in other modes. I did want to share that piece too. But the collaboration piece, we are meeting as staff in grade level team meetings on Microsoft Teams. So it's like a chat room almost with video conferencing where we communicate, we talk, we're using emojis. We're just having a good time, but getting the work done. And so I really appreciated that. And I encourage you guys to really, engage in those opportunities if you have them, because some of our teachers don't necessarily have, some of them are alone, some of them are by themselves. They don't get really any stimulation. So, and they're missing that camaraderie that we would share in the building. So not only are we worrying about and thinking about and providing for students, that's been a current theme in this whole presentation with my team here, is that you got to consider the staff and the parents too. And so this is one that is a staff consideration. So I encourage you to collaborate and work with teachers and see what their needs might be when it comes to working with their classes. And you might be surprised at what you learn when you choose to open it up and collaborate if you're not already doing that. The last piece that I want to talk about is community. And that's something we're all missing because we're not going to our buildings. We're in shelter in place. We're not able to joke and laugh and have fun with some of the people that we're accustomed to doing that every day. And so when I was watching the news one night, I saw a neighboring district put together a parade, in their community to make sure that their students who they work with every day normally get to see their faces and see their personality and just see the happiness and the joy that comes with interpersonal connection. So we were maintaining our 6 feet of social distancing because we were all in our own cars, but it just really lit up the community when we decided to do a parade. And of course, I spearheaded it. I threw it out there in a faculty meeting and said, hey guys, what do you think about this idea? Teachers love the idea. Nobody wanted to do it themselves, but they definitely love the idea of someone else doing it. So I did jump out there and came up with a route for us to meet and engage with most of our students, not all, but most. And we didn't throw any candy or anything like that out. We didn't want to spread any germs, but just honking our horns and yelling out of our windows and just telling them how much we missed them when we rode in our cars, that we miss you, we care about you, and all these things, stay encouraged. And it just really blew up the social media Glen Oak page. Parents were in tears, teachers were in tears because of that connection and that community that we were able to build. And we actually did it again yesterday, and we had more teachers and more families outside. So I was very encouraged that we were doing the right thing and that we were doing something that was not about us, but about our kids and connection and building community. I have a short video here, and this is just a video of us coming back from the parade. And I'm not gonna watch it all, but I just want you to see just the happiness and the joy that it created while we were still practicing our social distancing. I'll just play a few seconds of that and then we'll close it out. I hope you can hear it.
Carlos, we can't hear it, just so you know.
Oh, you can't hear it?
Yeah, just wait.
I can share it out through the Google Drive, but it was an amazing experience. And if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer any questions. And thank you guys for your time and attention.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Autumn. Thank you, Laura. We actually we have some time for some follow-ups and some important things that were raised in the chat that are really good. Laura, did you? I know I just responded to you that I had some questions. Did you have any overall comments you wanted to make before I ask some questions of the group?
There were a couple of questions in the chat box that I wanted to see if you have an answer, Carlos. One question was, how often does the school needs assessment go out? Was this one-time thing, or are you going to send it out more often?
That's a good question. That survey that I showed you guys earlier is something that we do every time we reach parents that we haven't reached. So we still have a no contact list, which I see somebody was talking about in the chat. And so the goal for the SEL team was to definitely touch base with every student that we work with that are on our caseloads through RTI or the IEP, the individualized education process. But after that time, it was about focusing on the students who nobody was able to reach, K through 8. And so no matter who we talked to, for what reason, we would ask those questions. And so that's continued. And in our SEL team meetings each Friday, there's always newer surveys that have been conducted by us. And so then we go over that data at that time. And that's been three weeks now. So we've looked at it 3 different times. So it's definitely ongoing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Laura, I had a couple comments I want to make as well, if I could.
Sure.
So, I mean, one, first of all, thank you. The tremendous energy and resources, and what I think is so clear from all of you is how much you've thought through a multi-level response to this problem, or the situation, not the problem, the situation, and then the problems that might present within it. And I think one of the things that we are very conscious of and intentional about in our certificate program and the stuff we try to write about and put on our schoolsocialwork.net site is being evidence informed and being able to kind of look at evidence and critique evidence and think about evidence. So I'll do a couple comments on that just to speak for myself on a few things. There was a note made in the presentation by Nancy about Erica's Lighthouse, and I had then put an article link to an article I did on it. And she used a very correct term, and then she called it evidence informed, which is basically the term I asked those guys to use. It is very much still an emerging intervention, though it has the evidence it has is great, and certainly there's no evidence that it's been harmful. And the Erica's Lighthouse folks, I don't know if they're still on today, they would totally acknowledge this and agree with this as well. There is a real push that they've made over the last few years, really since we did some of the research work, to make sure the work they're doing has been tested and used and adapted to a variety of cultural and racial and socioeconomic contexts. And I have much respect for them thinking about that, knowing that we see the issues of suicide and depression present in all communities, but they present differently. They present at different levels of intensity. So I give a lot of props to them for doing that. I think it's also, though, important that when we talk about some of the other resources that people pulled out, things like CASEL and SEL, things like Ruler, things like GRIT, some of them, to more extent than others, have actually really been shown to work in all those communities, right? There is a very legitimate and I would say significant argument right now about the issue of GRIT and whether it is relevant for communities that aren't affluent, that whether it's a good idea to tell communities of color that are dealing with economic deprivation to, be grit, have more grit. So I just want to say that out loud, because one of the things that we do when we think about what we do on our site and we do in our program is we really want you to be thinking about what the evidence is for what you have. And certainly the context that we heard about today, I think what we heard fits very nicely within where you all are, but I just want to be mindful of that. There's another thing that came up, though, that I did want to ask everybody, and it sort of came up with what you just said, Carlos, so I don't want to make you have to answer it again. I want to maybe hear from Autumn and Nancy and Laura. What are you doing with the parents and the kids you just can't reach at all? How is that being handled within your context? That's coming up a lot. It came up in the chat as well.
Yes, so I can speak to that. It's still something that we are teasing out. Something that we found in about the last week and a half that's been helpful is reframing what our phone calls or our text messages, our emails look like. We had gotten kind of a lot of the support staff were overwhelmingly hearing from teachers, or teachers were, contacting parents over and over, and it was just adding to their stress. So what we've done with those that have been hard to reach is just when we call, we're just saying, we just want to know how we're doing. This pandemic has been hard on everyone. Is there anything that you need? Instead of, calling and just saying, Johnny didn't do XYZ assignment, or, Susie's still missing the quiz from last week. So though that's not like a perfect answer or response, and we're still, fine tuning it, we have gotten a lot more of a positive response, and parents have been a little bit less upset, and I think maybe a little bit less, frustrated with the school and in the efforts. Though our intent was good, we really had to work on reframing the cause and to just say that, hey, we're here for you. What do you need?
Right. Yeah, I think that all of these webinars, and just my own life as a parent of 3 teenage boys that's getting emails all the time from our high school, there is that issue of information overload, or just, outreach overload, which, in some ways there are those kids that you all are trying to find and still get into contact with at all. And that's a whole separate set of issues, but also even families that are trying to be plugged in can be really overwhelmed. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Nancy or Laura, do you want to speak to that?
We're definitely finding, similar to Autumn, our approach has been more just reaching out to families to check in. We're checking in, and I'm doing the same with students. I do feel like the remote learning has created this sort of new level of teachers getting on kids because they're blocking out their pictures on Zoom, or they're exiting the Zoom meetings, or they're not showing up to class. And some kids are just shutting down. And so in order to reach those kids, if I'm emailing or Zooming and talking to them, I'm really first asking them, how are they taking care of themselves? I'm talking about things other than academics with the students to really build that rapport, and then hopefully be able to get a little bit deeper. And I'm doing the same with the parents, because there is so much information overload. Parents are working from home. We're all working under these extraordinary circumstances. And that's why I'm really encouraging our school to slow feed the information, just slow drip, like one thing at a time, because there's too much. We're so fortunate that we have all these wonderful resources, and yet we have to meet our parents and our students where they're at, and we have to really try to distill the information down and slow feed it if we can.
Great, thank you. Laura, did you want to add anything? I had a couple closing things too, but did you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree with everyone. Actually, we had a PLC today with my team, and one of our school social workers was stating that, we have to think about the mental health of our students, and the student she was referring to has those issues, and mom was feeling a little overwhelmed by the phone calls and the emails. So we actually decided with our administration that's better to back off a little bit and not put so much pressure on this family, because they have a lot of stuff to deal with. And I think that's a really important thing to consider when you're calling these no contact kids. Like, what are they really going through? Like Carlos said, go to their basic needs. Are those being met? And then go from there. Education is important, but as social workers, we do know that mental health is even more important. We have to stabilize them for them to function appropriately. So I agree with everyone and their statements.
Yeah, thank you. So Laura and Autumn and Carlos and Nancy, I am so grateful that we got to do this and that you brought all the things you did. People are so just excited and heartened and encouraged in the chat. You'll get to go read that, and we'll debrief on it next week. A couple notes before we end. If people want to keep this going and would like to stay connected to us through a professional learning community, you're very welcome to do that on our network, not our network. Go to the Google shared folder, go to that SSW Network PLC sign up, and you got to scroll over, but there's a tab for middle school, and you get your name and email in there. We'll contact you sometime late next week. If nothing else, this will be streamed on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it again with your colleagues if you like. And I know that Autumn and Laura and Carlos and Nancy are all on the School Social Work Network, and you would be very able to reach out to them there. So please don't hesitate to do that. Again, just tremendous information, tremendous care for what I didn't even say this as we started. I worked in all different levels when I was in practice, but I have to say some of my fondest memories of working in a middle school for 7 years, and just the kind of wacky population and the way that that plays out. I'm seeing somebody say that they can't get in. They can only say can't add in names, says view only. I will adjust that and resend the link out so people have that. But yeah, this population is lovely. They're fun. If you want to send me any interest in the PLC as well, I can do that. I'll put my email address in here. But more than anything else, you have a tremendous wealth of resources, all 4 of you, and I can't wait to see what else we do with this. So thank you all very much for coming, and stay tuned and take care. All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Laura and Nancy, we will, oh, I can't hear you, Nancy, sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
Can you
hi.
hear
Yeah, I could hear you. I couldn't hear Nancy. So I just wanted to say thank you both very much. This was really good. And I will be in touch to get a next meeting set up.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
you?
You're
Bye.
so welcome. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.